This is Transparency. Greetings and welcome to the first installment of Transparency. I'm Jefferson Henry. Our government tells us every day that they're just trying to be transparent, that they're working to be transparent. We hear it all the time. Well, we would like to give you a lot of information, and we have a lot of information. For the past 2 years in our spare time, which has been as much as we can find, my good friend and pal Raymond Garboski and I, we've gone to the law archives in Lansing. We've read the minutes from the Michigan Waterways Commission that began in 1947, minutes from the Natural Resource Commission, which is really the governing body of the Department of Natural Resources. It dates back to 1933. And those minutes are available online. They're very tedious to go through. But at this point in time, that's for some other videos. We do have that history. We do have those minutes, and they will come out. But we have to address some issues that have taken place. And we have to start from the present and move back. And we may have to jump back and forth. And we'll try not to confuse you. I think that the documentation and such that we have, you can follow. What we're going to start with is a testimony that was given to the Natural Resource Commission by the chief of the Parks and Recreation Division of the DNR. Michigan has a very storied Parks and Recreation Division nationally. Now, there's been some question about use of charter boats in marinas that you pay for that compete against private marinas. And for the past 2 years, we've been searching for answers from government officials right up to Governor Snyder's office, the Attorney General's office. And that's what you're going to hear today. Testimony from Ron Olson about being contacted finally in March from the Attorney General with advice on our situation. You're going to hear that, and then you're going to see some more. And so we'll have a break to explain that as we move along. But so to keep you from falling asleep and listening to me try to explain things, let's get on with what we have. Let you see what this transparency is all about. See what your government is willing to give you when you request it, when you decide to take your time and invest it for the government to give you the truth. This is transparency. This is the testimony of Ron Olson before the Natural Resource Commission in March of 2015. So you can listen to what he had to say according to what the Attorney General had said to him.
As you recall from previous meetings, 2 individuals from Ludington have attended your meetings and indicated a concern over commercial use at municipal marinas, particularly Ludington Marina, and also the authority associated with the Waterways program. And we did pose those questions to the Attorney General's office and have received advice from them. And just in a nutshell, that we are and have been for many, many years operating lawfully and within the confines of the law to permit the ability to have commercial uses such as charter boats in marinas, along with the providing the recreational boating opportunity that is provided for in the funding streams. The second piece regarding the authority does rest in the department with the director with delegated authority to myself, Chief of Parks and Recreation, with advice provided in advisory roles from the Waterway Commission as well as yourselves as you do in other matters that outside of your charge purview of the method of take of of animals and so forth. But that, in the bottom line, is what the conclusion of that was.
Any comments for Ron?
Ron, will that information, has information been communicated with Mr. Henry and Mr. Grabowski?
We will be doing that. We just got the information yesterday, so I wanted to make sure that you were well of it while we had the opportunity to do it.
Just to point out very quickly, Ron Olson states to the Natural Resource Commission. Now, the Natural Resource Commission, you heard two people speaking. The first one that asked if there was any further questions, that's Director Keith Cray. And we'll be having pictures of him in other videos, or maybe even in this one. And then Chairman Matanich asked if Mr. Henry and Mr. Grabowski had been relayed that information that he had received yesterday, advice, not any legal memorandum, but advice. And we had not been told. So at this Natural Resource Commission meeting, where we had come to testify, this was sprung out as if this was a final decision. But it was advice from the Attorney General, which doesn't mean anything. For 2 years, we've asked for a legal opinion. We've cited the law. We've put everything that we could from the law to show them, to get them to engage. And what we're getting is advice. So as we take a look at the email, this came from Ron Olson. This is right after the testimony that he gave to the Natural Resource Commission and the director, that the Office of the Attorney General had contacted him for advice. Now, you'll see here in this email that he says the Natural Resource Commission is advisory, and now the Attorney General is advisory. We're going to show you in just a minute the advisory capacity that the Attorney General gives when they're asked for an opinion, and how they give a legal opinion, not advice. We're going to talk, and we're going to keep moving right forward, but we're going to start talking a little bit more about talking to the Attorney General, seeing some compare and contrast of when, in specific, Ron Olson, the Chief of Parks and Recreation, asked for an opinion, a legal opinion from the Attorney General, just like it happened with us. Now, this was done about the Waterways Commission. You're going to see a document from the minutes of June of 2011 and October of 2011. You might find it surprising that the Waterways Commission, they seem to think that they needed to approve everything that they had to do. But yet then in October, Commissioner Murawski, who is now the chairman of the Waterways Commission, has the same number of people on the board, and they're all selected by the governor, whether it's the Waterways Commission or the Natural Resource Commission. Natural Resource Commission is approved by the Senate, and the Waterways Commission goes through much of the same process. So we're going to take a look at the process of what caused Ron Olson to ask for an opinion. We're going to see that opinion, compare that opinion to what we got in an email. All right, so let's run through this real quick. This is the minutes from June 17, 2011 of the Michigan State Waterways Commission, also known as the Waterways Commission. So let's get through this here. Commissioner Jim Hansen moved to send a letter from the State of Michigan Waterways Commission to Governor Rick Snyder and DNR Director Rodney Stokes, stating the Waterways Commission opposition and concern with the lack of due process by the legislature, usurping the Waterways Commission with direct legislative appropriation of state waterways funds. Now, it doesn't matter what's after that. It's who it's for and where it goes. The point is that the Waterways Commission is stating somehow in 2011 that they were cut out of the due process. That just simply is not possible, and we're going to show you why. So now we're going to take a look at the Waterways Commission October 21st, 2011 minutes, and you're going to see here in the second paragraph, Commissioner Murawski further commented that the purpose of a workshop retreat is to make sure they're not just a rubber stamp committee. See, now here's the same year in the commissioner is saying, he's addressing to Ron Olson right here up at the top, they want to be more involved. They want to have a say. They don't want to be just advisory. So what does Ron Olson do? Let's take a look. Now here is an answer from the Attorney General. It's a memorandum. It's from the Office of the Attorney General. You notice the heading up there? It's to Ron Olson because he's the one that requested this. It's from Robert Reichel, and it was approved by Peter Manning. He's an Associate Attorney General that I mentioned to you earlier that attends most of the Natural Resource Commission meetings, except for the last one in March in which that testimony took place. So here's your heading. This is what tells you. This is a memorandum. It's got you see the MOA 12003, dated, approved. This is your memorandum. It has an introduction and summary, and this goes through the history of the Waterways Commission and tells them that you're advisory. So you have these problems, you have these issues that's being brought up. And you're like, well, did they just learn this? Did they just find out that they're advisory? So let's go on to page 2 of this memorandum to Ron Olson. It says that the commission to the DNR by Type 2 transfer, and provided the commission was to serve an advisory capacity to the DNR. That change was reflected in statute when 1947 Public Act 320 was repealed and recodified as Part 781 of the Natural Resource Environmental Protection Act. As noted by the Attorney General, the legislature has empowered the commission to act in an advisory role to the DNR, recognizing the transfer of all the powers and duties of the Michigan State Waterways Commission to the Department of Natural Resources by virtue of Executive Order 1973-2. That's 1973. That's when everything finally got put together. But keep an eye on that and remember that date and that number because we're going to see it again. But let's take a look a little farther down here. So we move down to the bottom of page 2. And the footnotes. Number 1, under the Executive Reorganization Act 1965, Public Act 380, a Type 2 transfer, meaning transferring an existing department, board, commission, or agency to a principal department, and includes all of its statutory powers, duties, and functions. Now this is MCL 103 subsection B. Now we'll post that up down the road, but remember I said we're working from the present back right now, and that was all their monies too. The Waterways Commission had control of what they call the Waterways Fund today. Back then it was called some different things, so we'll get into that. But here we have it right here. 1965, 1973, 1999, they continuously are told they're advisory only. There's no excuse. Now, keep it in mind, ignorance is not an excuse for the law. Here we have Attorney General opinion. This is Jennifer Granholm. Look at the date, September 16th, 1999. Now, this is being asked for a completely different issue of a conflict of interest, but it's very interesting what we're going to find. And we're going to go to page 2, the second paragraph at the top. Second paragraph there. Thus, the legislature has empowered the commission to act in an advisory role to the DNR. They're talking about the Michigan State Waterways Commission here. It says right above that, it says the legislature has conferred upon the commission the powers and duties to give advice to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in its administrations of Part 781, 3, 5, and 791 of the Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act, also known as Public Act 451. We bring up Public Act 451. So we're looking at the second sentence, and where it picks up Michigan State Waterways Commission, originally created by the legislature in 1947, now recodified in subchapter 4 of the Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act, 1994. Public Act 451 of 1994. That's very important to take note. Any person that would be qualified or that the governor would be appointing to this commission would have to know their position as advisory. They would be expected to certainly go over what limitations there was, and in fact there's a packet that's given out that explains just that to any new commissioner that's carried out since 1994. So we slide down to page 2, the third from the bottom, very far right. This office concluded that a person simultaneously serving as county planning director and a member of the advisory panel, that's the reason for this opinion, but let's let the Attorney General Granholm expound. The advisory panel making recommendations to the Natural Resource Commission for projects to receive grants were not incompatible. Now we'll go to page 3. So at the bottom of page 3, continuing, ultimately, the Natural Resource Commission has the authority to decide which projects will be funded because the Michigan State Waterways Commission provides only advice to the DNR regarding its proposed facilities. Persons simultaneously serving on the Michigan State Waterways Commission, on the Township Planning Commission, passing upon a DNR site plan, do not thereby breach their duty owed to the township or the commission. So here we have a statement now about the Natural Resource Commission, of what their authority is. In 1999, there was no opinion that could be given that would over or supersede Governor Granholm's opinion. But yet, there was testimony by Ron Olson to the fact that he was operating on his authority given to him by the director. Well, there's no authority to legislate. Governor Granholm almost prophetically writes out that the natural resources, they got the purse strings power in the area. And I think we'll find out more, but we cannot get the Attorney General today to make a comment on it and use the Chief of Parks and Recreation as a mouthpiece of advice that he was giving. But nothing of a memorandum that cites the law. We do have one from Granholm, though, that cites what the Natural Resource Commission can do. Former Governor Granholm did her homework. She cites the law, and I believe this is one of the reasons that there cannot be any change of decision from the Attorney General today. Well, we've come to the close of our first installment of our screencast about transparency. When we first set a goal for how many minutes that we wanted to video, we were looking at 5 to 7 minutes so we could keep people's attention. It just wasn't possible to do. We're going to end up with probably a little over 20 minutes. We're at 19 minutes right now in a couple of seconds. I hope that you take this seriously. There are so many problems with the infrastructures in this entire country that these same type of problems are going to face you. Now, ours may be more specific in nature, but that doesn't mean that they won't come up in some way. There's a lot of things, ideas that we can come out, or ideologies that we can come out with this and say, the DNR is working awful hard from the meetings I've been going to purchase land. It's part of their mission statement. Check out DNR.gov. It's michigan.gov/DNR. And just go through it. Learn about the Department of Natural Resources. You will not find, at least I haven't been able to find, if you do, please let me know. My email is jffhenry@comcast.net. If you have any suggestions or you find something in error, we want to know about it. We just want to present the truth. That's why we put documents that we were able to obtain up so that you could see those. We didn't draw our conclusions from them. We let the documents speak to themselves and tell a story. It's very disturbing to testify before the Natural Resource Commission, and we wanted to put up the document. It's 324.501 if you'd like to look it up on the Michigan Legislature page that says the Natural Resource Commission is the head of the Department of Natural Resources. So the Natural Resource Commission wanted to have a semantic conversation over that they were not the DNR, even though we have the Attorney General statement of who they are. So what happened? What did the governor do to take and say that they're to cause that there can be nothing more than advisory? The laws are still there. The laws that are cited by the Attorney General at that time, Attorney General, former Governor Granholm. They're still there. Those laws haven't been repealed. So I hope we've been transparent. And I hope that if you see something that isn't or that can add to it, we'd be happy to take a look at it if we don't have it already. So we thank you for your time. We'll be posting as soon as we possibly can. We have to adapt to the information and the workflow of this, how this goes. Like I said, we were looking for 7 minutes max. We're going to have about 23 minutes. So thank you for watching. Tell your friends. Everybody needs to start holding their governments accountable. And that begins with transparency. I'm Jefferson Henry. Goodbye.